What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, and once again, for an amazing episode of My Sketchy Goodness, we are joined by the one, the only, Keith Grachow. Keith, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, conquering problems, finding ways, and getting creative.
Yeah,
Um,
just I guess we should explain what's going on with the opening credits.
yes, yeah. So, to viewers of the regular viewers of the show, you will have noticed we did not play our normal opening video. Uh, Basically, the reason for that is StreamYard. I'm guessing they're getting more popular. Good for them. And so they're putting more and more of their features behind paywalls. Um, some time ago, I came off of their paid plan, and as a result, our background changed, and that was about it. Not a big deal. All of a sudden, though, they're putting a number of features behind paywalls, so I will be finding an alternative. On the end of the viewer, I don't suspect that will be a big change. Um, I'll still find a way to get this out to YouTube, or perhaps we will do this on a pre-recorded, edited, and released basis, which is what I used to do,
Hmm.
or at least for my interviews. Um, I guess that's the big technical change. Uh, Beyond that, Keith, you mentioned just before we went live that you're going to be working on something a little different than normal, not just a sketch. Um, Care to share?
Yeah, I'm on a deadline, so
Oh boy.
that's why I'm going to be working on the next issue of Saltwater. So I'm just going to be flatting. For those that aren't familiar with what that is, if you look at the page on my right, the one that has all the value, that's essentially it's all what I'd call flatted. Um, the way that I work is I don't do color. Um, well, I've changed my process a lot, but recently, what I've been doing is I will do all the flatting in grayscale,
Mhm.
and that way I can see before I get to colors if everything is foreground, midground, background is working. If one of the things that could happen when you flatten in color is that if you're using colors that have very similar value, then they're not going to like necessarily uh, um, like have any kind of like difference in how you see. They may like blend together, or
Yeah.
um, so especially if you start to render in when you're adding like light and dark to it when you render, that it can make things look mushy or just kind of not pop the way it's supposed to. So
Hmm.
by doing it this way, I can see that all the values work. If I need to make some adjustments because certain things aren't, that's where I can do this here. And then once I add color to it, it's just laying color on top of the value. So the color in Photoshop, it's kind of like if you were to traditionally airbrush a singular like color or color scheme on top of
Yep.
your lines, and then
Right on.
you build different color on top of that unified color scheme, right? So
Oh.
I'm just doing it a different way. I'm taking the color out of it. Um, it's
Hmm.
the advantage is for me at least is that um, I can make some decisions earlier in the process, and then when I get to the color, essentially it just color part actually doesn't take me very long. So it's one of those things too, that which means then when somebody says to me, hey, I don't need this, doesn't need to be color, it could just be in like grayscale or something, that's the mo the that's still a lot of the work. The color for me
Oh
now
yeah.
is a lot less of the time and effort, because I actually render in the grayscale too. I'm not going to render today, but I render in grayscale, and then just add a unifying color on top, and then add little pops of color, with skin color and things like that, which doesn't take me as much time. So
Cool.
yeah. Hopefully that was clear. It's a little bit, if people who are artists will be familiar with like working in value and grayscale. I believe Alex Ross does, where he actually
Oh.
paints his, um like when he does covers, he'll paint and he does it in like grayscale, and then he'll add color on top of it, and the
Huh.
color, the grayscale comes through. So because I think he airbrushes, so the airbrush, the liquid, in the airbrush is like, somewhat translucent. So
Hmm.
that means that the grays, or whatever color scheme essentially the value color scheme he's using underneath, usually grayscale, is going to come through the color that he's laying on top, which is going to be like, a much, uh, it's not going to be as like a thick color. It's going to be like somewhat translucent, right?
Interesting. Yeah. So,
So,
like, just for my own knowledge, Keith, because
mhm,
I find that fascinating. Um, what I'm understanding. So, in the case of say airbrushing, because I'm sure with the digital that you're doing, it won't quite apply the same way, although maybe it will. But by doing sort of the grayscale first, so you could choose what gets darker. In your situation here, where you're laying in blacks, that will make certain objects physically darker, or perhaps be silhouettes and things. Then you go to darker grays, lighter grays, whites, and so on. When you then plop your color over that, that original valuing from dark to white, um, basically still sticks through, so the color gets a little more dimension to it.
yeah. So
Basically,
let me show you how it works digitally. So
sure,
here it is. I'm adding, um, this unified color of blue, let's just say, and I'm
cool.
going and making it an adjustment layer, which now, kind of like I was talking about with
Oh,
airbrush. Yeah.
yeah.
So now I have a unified color, right? And arguably I could have started with this color to this color, like, all the different values of this. Let's say this is like, some kind of, I don't know, periwinkle, or some kind of like a purplish hue
Yeah.
to it, right? So I can, from here now I can just like spray paint, like, the skin tones and like some other splashes of color. But now it's been colored, right? I work
Ah.
because I could have worked in this color scheme, but I'd have to actually find, every I'd have to figure out what the I'd create like a color library, or if it exists, I'd use it, of like 10% of, or every 5% of this, let's say, this color, right?
Hmm.
Of the value of this color, the hue of this color, right? So let's say this is like a periwinkle blue, but the within that you can have like a really really dark, really really light, and I would add in increments of 5 or 10% of
Hmm.
light or dark to give it that, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's more work than it's worth for me. It's just easier for me to start with the grayscale and lay a color on top.
Interesting. And then, like you said, you can go in afterward, and if you want something to be more blue, you can add that. Or if a button is flashing red, you can add the red in there, and not have to worry about coloring the entire page. Just you know, blanket sort of the dominant color you want, and then go from there. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's just a way to. Part of it is it's to me, this is just a different way of working, where I'm engaged, with what I'm doing. It also, um, I mean, like, I've changed this up all the time. Like, I'm sometimes I will actually do this. I'll do value, but then I'll also render as I'm going. And when I say
mhm.
render, I mean like I'm adding light and dark to the grayscale. Like,
Oh,
so
right on.
here
Okay.
I'll go back to this original one here. when I render, you can see I add some light and dark to it, right? We're not in a
Yeah.
super, um, the scene itself, the light in the room is kind of, it's not super intense. There's not a lot of shadow in this room, right? So everything is kind of a very, and there's not a lot of different value in regards to like the metals. And so there's little splashes of it. But for the most part, this is a lot of like very light fabrics and like grays and light grays and stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, like I'm rendering in value here, and I could do that as I go, but in this case I've been doing it after I've done the flatting. So
Cool.
it's just preference really at the end of the day. It's nothing,
Yeah.
um it's just for the most part a way for me to work where I'm engaged, and I can work pretty quickly. All right.
Right on. I mean, the one cool thing, just sort of with past people I've interviewed and talked with about this, and even when I was at Toronto Comic Con, like 2 years ago now, I did a panel there on making indie comics, and a couple of folks were there, and one of them mentioned that basically, if you want to get into comics, but you're not maybe quite there artistically or as a writer or whatever, um, basically what the person had said was doing color flats for people is a good way to one be paid because it accelerates what that person has to do later. But it's also a good way to get around the art, to see it, to understand it. So I always found that interesting because it was like a fun way, I thought, at least to get into the industry, get to know people, but directly contribute to the art, just doing flats for people. So it's cool to
Yeah.
get to really see that process live. Though I appreciate you're doing all your own art, obviously. But yeah, it's just fascinating.
Yeah. So what happened here? Yeah, I think Becca Kinsey. That's it's how she got into it.
Yeah.
Um, and she not sure what happened. But yeah, she started flatting for Francis Manipul, I think.
Oh,
And
cool.
then but she also did her own work. So I don't know what happened to the hand. I have to draw it in, I guess. So yeah, for her, that was a good way of learning about the process of you know process of creating a comic. Flatting, like the way I flat is not the probably the best way to flat because I don't deal with like color separations and things like that. Um, I work very, I guess, dirty, like is a way to put it. Like I
Yeah.
just I'm I don't, when I print, because I don't worry about color separations because it's not going to be, most of the stuff I do is not printed um, offset printing, which is like a way of printing where you have to create like um, plates. So
Hmm.
for the printing process, where you have like the CMYK plates.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
anyway, because I don't work like that, and I don't really, I know that you can like you can create like do it in a flat in a way where it's really really tight. If you were to look at, if I were to take the lines away, you would be able to see like um how closely all the shapes like fit together like a puzzle.
Oh, right.
Because
Yeah.
you don't want to have like again, the in the offset, without getting really super technical, plates shift, and so the colors will shift, and you want to make sure
Oh.
everything is like very tightly put together so that the color, you can't see like color shifting um,
Hmm.
outside of the lines and stuff. So anyway, I mean, digitally, you don't really have to worry about that as much anymore because of the way that the process works. But uh, that's just something that they would do when you would do color separations in the early days
Yeah.
of printing and creating comics. Anyway, um, because so the way I work, it's very loosey goosey. Just there's artists that will, and I think they work in Procreate to do this, where you can actually like your lines are so tight that you can essentially uh, click on the shape within the lines and fill in color that way,
Right
right?
on.
Mine is not that tight. I don't. Clayton Henry is an artist that does that. I've seen him work where essentially he'll just like he will literally just make select all the places he wants to add in a certain color, and it'll fill in boop 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 boop. It'll fill in.
Wow.
He made he here I'll show you kind of if you think about this, if this when you have a shape, there's
No
there's
break.
no
Yeah.
gap, right? There's no break. So hypothetically, I could if I had the way I have my selection where I could if I wanted to do that
You could
similar
paint
thing
bucket the thing. Yeah.
yeah, I could do that, right? But I it's just not the way my brain works, so I don't have that. My lines are kind of messy and stuff. Um, so uh, this works for me. It's whatever works for you, really. It's whatever.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the flatting part of it, I'm not really. It doesn't take me very long to flat. Like I'll probably be able to finish this page of flatting well within the hour. So it's the rendering that takes me probably more time, or because it's a little bit more of an involved thinking about where light and dark is falling on the characters and in the room. So I have
Mm.
to think about that a little bit more. This is a bit more mindless. It's just kind of you can watch something and not think about things too much. You have to make sure that you're getting the proper um, colors or the values to go with the whatever if whatever you've worked before. Um,
Yeah.
making sure. Um, but anyway,
Well, really quick, I want to interject. One, near the start of the stream, our good friend Paul Kemp mentions this is a treat to watch Keith work on a saltwater page. Thank you for the show, Konrad. Paul, thank you for continuing to support the
hey,
show.
Paul.
Uh, and then Leo mentions uh, your grandfather was a stripper, an opaque and opaquer in the lithograph industry regarding offset printing, and it's in your DNA. Sounds about
Yep.
right.
Yeah, I forget about that. Yeah. So then my dad owned an advertising agency in the 80s and 90s. So there's more of that kind of stuff that I learned. So yeah, I
Hmm,
guess it's generational. It's multi-generational at this point.
right on. Speaking of advertising, actually, nice little segue. Um, the last uh, 3 weeks, I forget exactly when. But I took a couple previous episodes, I chopped them up, made little clips out of them, and I've been
Hmm.
releasing them onto YouTube successfully as shorts because YouTube doesn't let you do like click create YouTube short, create live video, or create video. It's just create, upload, and then it tells you what it's gonna do. I
Hmm.
figured out how it all works. And I've been releasing a video Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So folks out there, do subscribe to the channel. And while you are mindlessly scrolling through YouTube Shorts, just like TikToks and stuff, you will see us Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I will be hopefully by Monday have clips from this very episode out and available. And to get meta, who knows? Maybe I'll turn this little blurb into a clip. Um, but some words absolutely failed Ooh, excuse me.
You okay?
I don't think my brain's working right now. Okay. Um, Sort of a question I had was, and it came out just because of the way that you're flatting. Regarding light sources, as you mentioned earlier, generally flatting's pretty quick. It's only when you have like a complex set of light sources that it gets tricky, um, because the sun doesn't permanently live in the upper right hand corner of every panel. Um, for that, I was wondering if there is a way that when you're flatting, like for instance, on in the panel that the main screen is focused on, um, you've got this woman sort of floating forward with her hand up, and there's blotches of white on her right elbow, her left tricep, um, the back of her left leg, um, which function as some of you taking note of them now. I would say they do function as highlighting areas. So do you leave those in so that way when you apply the color over it, it just works? Or will you? It appears that you'll go in afterward and add highlights where necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and I think to myself, sometimes it looks better if I just leave it in like that. If I were just to like, and I could like, leave it like that, if I wanted to, as I'm working. It's kind of cool, if I were to do that. Maybe I will. Who knows? But some my OCD doesn't let me do it, uh, and I go back and I'll render on top. So let me just like
Yeah.
kind of explain something about local color and uh, like color that is caught or light. Uh, the You have local color and color that is changed when light hits it. So local
Okay. Yeah.
color is yeah. So local color is consistent color regardless of the light source, right? So for example, well, everything like yes, your color of your shirts, it's all it was made with a certain color,
Hmm.
and it'll be consistently that color, uh, in that like it's not going to one day become like black all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? Like devoid of color or something. But then when you have light or dark hitting it,
Yep.
the light hitting it or absence of light, it will that will change what the color looks like to our eyes, right? So
Absolutely.
the just like when you have a color, I don't want to get so technical here with how color works, but it's essentially that when you're working with in the process I'm working with, I'm working with local color, but it's technically grayscale. It's desaturated. There's no color in it, but it's again, if I were just to add blue in here to make it like or in this one here, right? Then
Yeah.
you have that as the uh, value system of of the uh, whatever your the illustration. But in this case, I'm working with the local colors in the grayscale. And when I am ready to go to rendering, what I call rendering, that is the adding of light, or it's the adding of dark
Fair.
in
Yeah.
within Photoshop. Uh, the way that Photoshop works is you can use there's uh, right here you have adjustment layers,
Hmm.
right? You can see it's changing as I go through it, and
That's so freaky.
those adjustment layers allow me to um, do certain things on top of the existing local color. So, for example, I go to multiply here, And let's see, I bring the opacity down to 60. And I want to add like shadow here, right? So now I have a shadow all underneath this person. Now multiply, the way it works is I can create a shadow all along, even if I have different values. Right? So the skin tone is a different value, right? You see what's happening here?
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So I have like I'm not having to change up the value I'm working in, which
To
is
match
this
the
like
different.
yeah.
Oh.
Now that being said, because a this value that I'm working at, which is I think it's a 40% gray. Yeah, it's 40% gray. You see how dark it is on the skin.
Mm-hmm.
I can if instead of actually using that such a dark value on it, I can throw in a lighter value
Right on.
on top of
Literally
it.
paint right on top of it.
Now, if I use this, I'm at 20% gray. If I add that, on top of where I did, you see it kind of blends in a little bit now. It's like a bit of a band. You can
Oh
see,
yeah.
right? So I could do that too, which I do when I'm working, right? So again, like I could. One thing you said was, well, why not just instead of um, filling this whole thing in, why not just fill in partly and leave it, figure out where you think the light is. I could do that, but the
Mm-hmm.
thing about doing that is that the way Photoshop works is when I add in color on top of it, like if I were to add in that blue on top of it, nothing is going to show up.
Oh.
There's going to be no color showing up because it's just the way that it works is it decides that like certain values, the color is going to like going back to this. You see how white that white is? Some of these whites are on there. There's
Yeah.
no color. I'd have to go in after the fact and add blue, a bit of blue in to give it a bit of a
Gotcha.
right. So I have to add value into where the white is to give it so that so anyway, it just knowing what Photoshop's going to do, right? So, but I could do that if I wanted to. I could, if I had wanted to, like, um, as I'm working.
Yeah.
Uh,
That sort of approach reminds me of manga. That's why I mentioned it when I saw how you'd done the grayscale in there. I was like, oh, it's if you left it, it's just basically how I've seen like manga artists go.
yeah, and that's a completely valid way of doing it. Like I have done it in ways where I will render as I go. Like if I wanted to, instead of just flatting, I can just render and you know render this way, right? And so if I'm putting highlights in the hair, right? But doing it
Mm-hmm.
that way, the problem with that is if I want to go in, let's say I want to go in and change the whole hair, like I want to grab a shape. I want to see grab a
Oh, it
shape
makes them
there.
just yeah.
It's easier for me to grab the whole shape if it's or to make a change. So like let's say I wanted to make a change to the hair color. Um, if I want to make a change to that hair color, I could do that. I can make it. You know,
Yeah,
I
you can
don't. But if
control
I
it all
had,
with the block.
yeah, if I had
Oh.
added in value and if I had it in, if I had rendered it, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So this way, I
Fascinating.
can just grab in a single shape, or if I decide to change all of the uniforms color, if I want to make that uniform color, I don't like how it's that the 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 value's too dark. I want to make it lighter. I can just grab the whole thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ah, smart. Also, speaking of rendering, um, Mitch Cook, your amazing co-creator, goes, "This is my first glimpse of fully inked pages for issue 6."
Yes, I did get it. I did get him to verify that it was okay for me to do this. So
Good.
this isn't like a surprise for him going, why are you showing these pages to everybody? I haven't seen them. That's, he's like, yeah, go ahead. But yes, that technically is the first time he's seeing the these inked pages. So, you know,
Oh, well,
um,
Mitch, I hope they're to your liking.
it's going to be an awkward conversation if he's like, that's not a page you're supposed to be working on. That doesn't exist in the story. So
You know what, Keith, you couldn't have given me a better segue here. Oh my goodness. Talking about stuff that doesn't exist in the story. Mitch goes, meh. um, Over the weekend, I led my first campaign of D&D as the.
oh yeah.
Uh, I'm old school. I'll say dungeon master. Um, Mitch, I keyed. So yeah, I led my first campaign with some friends. Had a really good time. Had a good reception to it, I guess I'll say. Um, we're picking out our next date. But the reason I bring it up is the campaign that I have built. I have set in the world where I primarily write all my fantasy stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've basically staged it. Oh, I don't think any of my players will be watching. I've basically staged this so that the end of this campaign should coincide with the start of where I've basically written my book. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what I found fascinating is, as the writer of the story, I've come up with all these major plot points and events. I know the characters that they're going to run into, what they're doing, to a degree anyway. Um, and then, as all good D&D campaigns do, and all good D&D players do, they absolutely were like, but we want to know about this thing and what's in it over here. And it's like way away from what I thought. And I enjoyed the experience because it forced me as a creator to be like, well, okay, this is what would have been happening. This is what these people would have been doing. This is how it's all interconnected in the world. And it forces me to flush out this world
Mm-hmm.
I've created and how it works. For me, thought that was cool, but it got me thinking about the idea of, as creative people, as Mitch I'm sure knows, as you know, as anyone out there who's created anything, whether it's music, art, books, prose, uh, a video game, anything they spent the time to create, it is yours and yours alone up until the point that you release it and let other people get their hands on it and play with it.
Yep.
Um, and I was wondering what your thoughts are as a creator regarding sort of other people's, maybe I'm not wording this right, but I want to say perceptions and or
And
sort of
their
the viewers,
interpretation.
their interpretation, the viewers' ownership over the art, um, and the subject matter, because as mentioned, once this issue is fully complete and printed and someone buys it, it's now theirs. It's in their hands to do with as they see fit. So I was wondering what your sort of thoughts were on that.
Um, well, I mean, we're talking about like a comic versus like a D&D campaign. It's a little different, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, because the interaction between a D&D campaign and the players is much more interactive than a comic is, unless you have like a choose your own adventure type situation, right? So within a comic world, yeah, there you get. Mitch and I have gotten this a lot, where somebody will interpret the story a certain way that we hadn't necessarily thought of, and it's not that it's not wrong. It's just not what we had planned, and it's interesting when somebody sees something, like, oh, this character must be doing this because of this reason, and we're like, we hadn't actually had a reason why the character was doing that, but the way you thought it's that's sure that works within the universe we created. I mean, why not, right? So
Hmm.
um, it's one of those things where sometimes somebody will come up with something that you hadn't um, thought of, and now it becomes their thing, and that's that's awesome. That's uniquely their um interpretation of what how they see the character. And it's not right or wrong. It's just because everybody, some people like you, when you were like, oh, this is a horror comic, and we were like,
Yeah.
oh, we hadn't thought of it in that term when we first started doing this. But the more we thought about it, the more we realized, yeah, you're right. There's a horrific element to this claustrophobic, horrible secrets that people are hiding in the claustrophobic environment that they're in. Really does lend for kind of a horrific type of situation that it's not necessarily like horror of like a slasher type or bloody gory
Hmm.
horror, but it is a horror of the mind. And so we hadn't necessarily intended it when we started working on the story, but now it works, right? Like the issue I'm
Oh
working
yeah.
on now, it is a kind of a horror comic because of like what's happening in the story, right? So,
Right on.
um, and that creates for having somebody bring that to your attention in a way that you hadn't thought about makes it really exciting because it's like, oh, well, now they've just added a whole new element to what we've worked on, and it's something that we can use to make this story much richer, right? And so I mean that kind of stuff happens, and on a so on a big picture or in a little micro detail, you get people adding to the story. With what you're working on, it's a little different because this is like these are living, breathing characters that they're basically creating, and so essentially they've rolled dice to create
Yep.
the profile of the character, and then they're rolling dice to just make decisions of how they're going to progress through the story. You've
Yeah.
built a world, and so as the DM, your job is kind of to like have it fleshed out enough that you have answers for all the possibilities that they're coming up with. However, I guess a really good like a DM, the experience has done it for years, may have enough um, ideas for backstories that they
Yep.
can kind of go with the flow. And while they haven't created something, they're like, okay, well, there's a some kind of tavern down the road, and you're going to go in, and what are you doing? Are you just going to drink, or are you going to cause a fight? Well, all of a sudden, now you roll, I'm causing a fight, and now all these like, well, now there's a bunch of orcs in there, and you bump into one of them, and a whole big thing starts. This orc may not have existed prior to this moment, but now you're like,
100%.
that there are orcs in this world. You know that they'd be in a tavern. You know that they'd be drunk and riled up, and so therefore you can kind of create this situation. And out of the orc's pocket, as they're lunging at you with their club, uh, falls out a necklace. And so maybe you'd had
Yep.
planned for this character to get the necklace all along. You weren't sure exactly how, but this was a perfect opportunity for them to do it. And now so that's how the story um, has a very it's kind of not yours, not theirs, but both of you together as you're going.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you were to write it all down after the fact, um, and use it as like a like something to write, I mean, I guess I don't know how that would work in regards to like who owns what, right? Whether
Oh
you
yeah.
would,
That massive co-ownership there.
yeah, you may have to have a conversation. Although, I mean, again, it's one of those things that it's like you're the one that's created the world to a degree, so you know you have more say, I guess, than the characters within it. But
Hmm.
yeah, so does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. It's it's definitely interesting, and Mitch even commented while you were talking about what I had said, where I thought saltwater was a horror. Um, he added in, I hadn't considered saltwater as horror before until you said it. Now I lean into the horror, which is so cool to know. That a comment
Yeah.
about I had made basically just when I checked out the first couple issues was like, now we're impacting creativity. I love it. It's so cool, and I am genuinely honored. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like regarding the campaign, it was very interesting because I had ideas set up. I was like, all right, we're gonna do like a session one, an introduction. If you guys really like it, we'll continue. If you don't, cool. We had a fun little game, and wasn't your thing. Totally fine. Um, and it took like 20 minutes before they were off the rails, going somewhere I did not expect. And like you said, just figuring stuff out as I went. Um, and then my partner afterward, she asked me, she was like, "So like, how did you come up with all these interesting characters?" And I was like, "Y'all just started asking questions, and I needed it to make sense."
Yep.
Welcome to the world. It was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
it was good. Enjoyed.
that's a skill that like helps in writing, right? Because like I think Jim Zub also runs D&D campaigns, and I think that's part of the reason why he likes doing it. Is it like helps, you're problem solving, right? You have to think on your feet as you have to have enough knowledge of the world you've created to be able to think on your feet as you go, as your characters, the players explore the world, right? And you have a
Mhm.
story that you have plotted out, but obviously you don't know exactly how they're going to get there. You need to figure out. You have to figure out how to get them to the end of it, and that's the same thing with writing a story, right? You may have the. I think coming up with the ending is one of the easiest things. It's
Oh
sticking the
yeah.
landing. Sticking the landing. How do you get from the from beginning to the end? That makes it difficult, right? And I think like you can have a really fun journey getting there, but then by when you get to the end you're going, well, that doesn't make any sense anymore, like why
Mhm.
they're there, right? So that's the really difficult part. So this is all the doing a campaign is a problem solving exercise for a writer, in regards to how do I get from A to Z, uh, using these characters in a um, loose plot that I've created, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah. It's definitely an experience. Um, but yeah, I find on the writing and the creative, and it's definitely something where I wanted them to push me in weird ways. Um,
Mhm.
I guess I'm doing an internal consistency check, maybe, or a pressure test, if you will, of my world. Um, it's fascinating, and it's very interesting, and I'm really enjoying it.
Well,
Um,
that's good. Yeah.
yeah. No, one thing I was curious because we've got about 15 minutes left, Keith. Um, Do you have
Wow.
any shows coming up? Obviously, you've got another issue of Saltwater coming out in the near-ish future. But yeah, is there anything else coming up in the next couple months that you'll be doing that people can come see you at? Anything like that?
Yeah. So I have the next show I have is actually with Mitch, which is Rose City in September, where we're
Right on.
going. I'm working very, very diligently to get it ready for that show. I can't 100%
Ah.
can't 100% guarantee it's going to be ready for the show. Uh, I'm working my hardest to try to get it ready for the show, to have it printed and in our hands so that we can have it. Um, have our fan base that we've built there pick up the next issue, right? So,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah.
like that's the next thing, and then I have Word on the Street in late September, and then late October I've got Telling Tales in Hamilton. It's another, like a children's book kind of, or children's oriented type of
Oh, that's
um,
cool.
show. I also have another. I'll be touring saltwater around. So I've got way Wayside in late October. Can't remember the date off the top. I think it's like the 26th or something of October. Um, there may be a couple of other things thrown in there. Basically, I took the last 2 months off. I haven't had any events in Gotham Central in the end of June, so I um, wanted to be able to work on this. So I knew that I needed to have as much time as possible to be able to do that. And then
Yeah.
I uh, decided, like I would throw in as many shows as I could between September and December. So I will have a lot of show. I just haven't got confirmation on a bunch of them yet. So I'll as they get announced, hopefully have gotten into them. But
Right.
yeah, and so after this, after Saltwater, I've got a little pitch I'm working on. And
Ooh.
then after that, I'm working on issue number 5 of Donnybrook.
Love it. And
So
Donnybrook being your hockey-based comic. Um, for the folks out there who aren't familiar, what's the pitch?
Donnybrook, it's about a minor league hockey team in the States that is trying to make it into the playoffs, and so it goes through their season. It's called the Michigan Massacre, and it's a lot of the stuff that happens behind the scenes. The writer Dom Riggio, he used to play minor league hockey, so it's some of the stuff that he
Oh,
witnessed. So it's kind of raunchy. It's got Letterkenny style vibes to it, and I mean it's fun to draw because there's a lot of uh, uh, action with the hockey playing that they do, and also some of the stuff that happens off. There's a lot of humor to it.
right
It's
on.
very it's kind of gratuitous, which is a little bit outside of my. Um, and I'm not somebody who likes doing gratuity for the sake of gratuity. So
Ah.
I've always said to Dom, if he had his druthers, he would make it like he would have a lot more male nudity in it than I. But I'm like, a little goes a long way, my friend. Like, yeah, you if you throw it in too often, people get used to it. So you kind of have
Yep.
to throw it in just when they're not expecting it. And I think he's appreciated that. So it works in that way, that it's um, it's a story that for sure has lots of humor. It's got heart to it, and Dom is just um, really expanding it outwards, where he's gotten like Kevin Smith and that whole Clerks crew to be part of some of the hockey teams, to
Oh,
sponsor the
that's
hockey
cool.
teams and stuff. So I know he's got some big plans with that and for the future of Donnybrook. And then um, so I as far as I know, I'm going to be working on the next few issues in the next few years.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, congratulations to you. That's super cool. And I'm glad you're doing stuff that's sort of outside of your comfort zone, I'll say. 'Cause yeah, it's always good to, push your limits, sort of see what you can do, and hopefully enjoy the process.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm jumping back onto Summer on the Swing, the book my mom and I have created together. So hopefully that will be finished sometime next year. So I'll have this year. I didn't have too many books coming out, and next year I should have a bunch.
Awesome. Just, just me admiring your work. Don't mind me. Going full
Yeah,
screen with this here.
yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, I'm working fairly close, but so I see all the mistakes and the lines and stuff that I wish I had made a little cleaner or different. But when you zoom
Mhm.
out, you read it, you don't really see that kind of stuff. But you know, so it's a little, sometimes a little painful to work through these, because you're like, oh man, I've done this differently. But you know what? I mean, I've worked as well as I can, and you kind of have to, you can make changes here or there where you need to, but you have to, at the end of the day, at some point, you just got to let go, because really nobody's going to see these things except for you.
Oh, 100%. Like you're saying lines that shouldn't be there. Or you wish you'd done them differently, and I'm just here looking at like, yeah, that's a comic book. Cool, right on. Like it's one of those things. My favorite analogy when people are like, I can start a little bit of perfectionism going on, and it's impeding what they're doing. I'm always like, look, when you paint the car, you will see all the issues. When other people look at the car, they're just going to see the red car or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what you're going through, I would assume. It's just
Well,
fascinating.
it's also, you know, I was telling my students this the other day, so I need to follow my own advice, which is your intent might be to draw something with a much more control, right? You have a vision of the way it's supposed to look, and it never meets up with that vision, right? You really, if you can get to 75% of the way there, you're doing well. And I think
Mm,
that's, you're seeing all the things that you could have done, right? That, oh man, but it's just one of those things where it's like, doesn't mean that what I ended up doing isn't working, right? It just means that it's just, you're always looking at or let's say I got to the same place that I wanted to get to, but I didn't do it the way I wanted to, right? So you could be
yeah,
like, it's still done right. It just, I wanted to do it this way with this kind of these kinds of lines, and I ended up doing it this way with these kinds of lines, and it's the same outcome, but I hadn't planned for doing it this way. And so you have to go, it doesn't really matter, right? At the end of the day, if it works, it works. Um, you just have to let go of some of those preconceived ideas that you wanted to have happen, and let it go, right? And that's always, it's a hard thing. That's why I always tell my students, I'm like, I completely understand that you wanted it to come out a different way than you were thinking, or it came out a certain way that it works for what I wanted you to do, but
mm,
you didn't plan it that way, and therefore, in your mind, you're not happy with it, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just like if you're doing your campaign, and you're like, okay, I really want these characters, the players, to get to this place, and they get there in a really weird way that you hadn't even conceived of, and you're like, well, it worked. It's not the way I would have. I wanted them to go to the right. They went to the left, and they went this really circuitous
mm,
route, but they got to the end point, and that's where I wanted them to get to. I just, it just worked. I had to work a different way to get them to that point, and you're like, I guess that's it, right? It's just
yep,
like you said
yeah,
before.
exactly.
Yeah,
Oh my god, love it. Yeah, it's like I was listening to Brandon Sanderson, prolific fantasy writer. For those of you not familiar, which if you're not, fair. I truthfully have never read one of his books. I just know he's an extremely popular writer. He does a lecture series at a university, and they allow him to film it. And he puts it out online, and he basically talks about, well, a whole bunch of stuff. But one of the things is like killing your darlings, the famous saying, where it's like the way that you're trying to create the thing might not happen exactly the way you think. Don't be too precious about it. And then, in a separate point, but similar to what we're talking about, if it gets done and it ends up working the way it is, great. Like, you get what you get. You got what you were after in the end.
yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
that's
That's it.
funny. Sorry,
Yeah,
you
that's
clicked
it.
a button, your lines went away, and it was like, ah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just seeing which I wanted to add something there. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just it. It's every artist goes through that. They just, it very rarely goes the way they want it to, and but you're given a limited amount of time to work on a project, and you have to be okay with, like, if you're putting in the effort, and you're always trying to improve upon what you've done in the past, you kind of have to let it go, right? You kind of have to go, because I mean, to be honest with you, once I've actually finished this, I don't really look back on a lot of this and go, oh man, I should have done this, this, and this. I'm already on to the next project, right? I'm already thinking about the next thing I'm working on. So, it's really more just in the middle of it that I'm always like, oh man, I wish like, oh, I wish it had come out this way, or if I had done it in this process, I would have been able to do it the way I wanted to do it, but it still came out the same way that it was supposed to, regardless. So, you just have to go, okay, it's
And
it's still, and now it's going to be, to kind of bring this all home, it's going to be somebody else's, right?
yeah,
It's this is not going to be, once I'm done, this is for me right now. What I'm doing is for me, and the writer, and or the team that I'm working with, right? It's for us. And then once it's finished, it's no longer for us. It's for the fans. It's for people reading it. And so,
hmm
and they're going to interpret it however they interpret it, and that's perfectly viable. And you just have to, let it. You have to be really kind of disconnected from it, I think, at that point, because they're going to maybe see it different ways that you would plan, right?
yeah, 100%. And then from there, I mean, we could go crazy and we can talk about separating the art from the artist and
Mm-hmm.
subjective experiences and all of these wonderful things, or people reading into things that aren't there, or interpreting things that are there, and all that crazy stuff that people do once you've released art out into the world, and you're not the only person controlling it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, that could be a whole different. We only have a few minutes, but that could be a whole different conversation about the person who created it, what kind of person they were, if they were anti-Semite, or you know some kind of bigot, but you really like their work. How do you can you read it without imbuing your own feelings about that person now, right? And that's always
hmm
it's I think that's an individual thing for people to figure out, right? Whether they can look at somebody's work the same, or whether they just can't read it anymore, because it's just the way that they see that person, right? It's kind of like J.K. Rowling, right?
Yeah,
Hard not to.
that's the big one. Yeah.
So sometimes I think that's really what they mean when they say don't meet your heroes, because if you meet them and you realize that they're not the type of person that you thought they would be, now it kind of tarnishes the way you view the body of work they've created, right? And so all of a sudden you're just like, man, I loved this thing, and now it just, I don't like it anymore because of that. I can't see it the same way,
Yep.
right?
So
And
true.
that, yeah. So.
That is such an interesting thing, because you would think, and I guess this sort of boils down to how we perceive things and how we take them in. Um, but like that, in an instance like that, yeah, you've met someone that's created something that impacted you. I think the disconnect, the issue comes with however that thing impacted you. Whether it was me, like a lot of people when you're teenagers, it's music. Um, when a particular song or set of music or an album or a CD, whatever, impacts you a certain way, and then if you get to meet the people who created it, when they don't make you feel the way that that CD or song, whatever, made you feel, there's a
Hmm.
huge disconnect there, and it's like, well, the thing you made did this to me. Why aren't you? You know, um,
Yeah.
I'm certain there's a whole field of psychology dedicated to that specifically. Um, but I think that's a talk for the next episode. We've got 30 seconds left or less.
Yeah.
Um, So, Keith, real quick, just to wrap up or confirm, I should say. So, your next appearance, you're going to be at Rose City Comic Con. You're then going to be at Telling Tales over in Hamilton. And then after that, it will be which one?
Word on the street before Telling Tales, and then after that, Telling Tales is going to be Wayside, and there may be a couple of other things thrown in before and after those events. So I haven't gotten confirmation yet, but September is going to be a pretty it's going to be filled for me when it comes to shows and work. Actually, the rest of the I have a lot of work and teaching from now until the end of the year, so I'm feeling pretty good about that right now.
Gotta like that.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, for the folks at home, whether you're with us now live, one, thank you for tuning in live. If you're checking this sometime in the future, I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've gone out and grabbed the newest issue of Saltwater, which may, by the time you're watching this, be the old issue. Who knows? But thank you anyway. Like, comment down below what you think of the episode, what you thought of Keith's art. If you have some thoughts on what we've talked about, let us know. We do this show roughly bi-weekly. So 2 weeks from now, we should be back on. And Keith, as always, it was an absolute pleasure to have you talk comics with me, man.
Yeah, it's great talking with you too, my friend. Take care, everybody.
Alrighty. Adios, everyone. Have a good one and stay safe.